Shleima. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Amud Yomi Shiur. We are back after the Pesach break. And Zoom already broke down. Oh, Zoom is back to misbehave. He's a bad kid in the class. Some things don't change exactly. Okay, so let's start. In spite of everything, we are saying the Shiur's Lul Nishma Sovi Moiri Menachem Ben Akiva. הנראה שבסלחון נצחוק ולרפואס חנה בת סימה אור רפואל בן דליה ולשידוך טוב של אהוב השירי בבסת פרומה. Peretz, good morning Peretz. Says the Heilige Mishnah. Says the Mishnah as follows, back to the Mishnah. This Mishnah we have met already before in Daf Nun Aleph Amud Beis. Says the Mishnah. Amekadesh es bitoy stam. Amekadesh es bitoy stam. A person remembers but doesn't remember well what happened with him, and he is the father of a few daughters. Amekadesh es bitoy stam. A person remembers that he was mekadesh his daughter, meaning he received kiddushin for his daughter on behalf of his daughter. Ein aboygois bichlal, which means, let's say the guy has daughters above bas mitzvah and below bas mitzvah. We all know that those below bas mitzvah, they belong to him when it comes to kiddushin. He receives their kiddushin not as a shliach. He is the master, the owner of their kiddushin. So if he's not sure if the older daughter above, let's say not above bas mitzvah, above naira, above 12 and a half, and another girl who's below that, or possibly, as we're going to see, a few girls in each direction, some are within his authority, they are below naira, they are under him for kiddushin, and he has other girls who are above that, and he doesn't know which one was mekadesh. Clearly it was the younger ones. Why? Because if he told the man biti mikudeshes lecho, let's say he has only two girls to make it simple, yeah, and he has a girl below and a girl above, and obviously we know the one below bas mitzvah, below naira, she is the one who was miskadeshes because she's within his power. The shenkin, the girl who's over age, who's over 12 and a half, she's not under him to be miskadeshes. She's a free person. She receives her own kiddushin. So clearly, when you're not sure if it was 14 years old Prince Abela or 11 years old Chanale, clearly it was 11 years old Chanale because she's in under your charge. I keep vacillating back and forth if there are a few girls above and a few girls below. That will be discussed in the Gemara. Okay? But clearly, the one that is Miskadeshis is the one below. You may even ask what's a Chiddush. The Gemara will discuss it. That's Ad Kan, case number one, and we'll discuss it later. By the way, if you have good memory, you remember this Mishnah appeared as was. This Mishnah was quoted. This Mishnah was quoted in Daf Nun Aleph Amud Beis. Okay. Says the Mishnah, Mi sheyesh lo shtei kitei bonois mishtei noshim. A person has two groups of girls that came from two women. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, the Zoom is insane today. Excuse me, 1 second. Says the Mishnah, a man has two groups of girls from two different women. Yeah, look at the chart, it's so simple. He has three girls that are older and three girls that are younger. But don't get confused. This is not above bas mitzvah and below bas mitzvah. Absolutely not. Because if you know that one is above, one group is above bas mitzvah, one is below, no questions, as we just said now, that the ones below bas mitzvah are mikudeshes and not the ones above. We're talking here about older girls and younger girls. Either all of them are below or all of them are above the age of Kiddushin. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, age of Kiddushin. Looks like I'll have to record today again. Thank you, Zoom. Okay, so now, let's say the guy has, right, a few girls from one woman. Yeah, there are his daughters from Rochel. Then Rochel died, says Rashi, and these girls are the girls from Leah. Relatively, let's say this one is 26, 24, 22, and this one is 18, 16, and 14. Let's say they're all big, or they're all young, right? Lamaisa, there's a group of girls who is above and a group of girls that are that are younger, relatively younger, from a different woman. Because they're from different wives, they can be clearly grouped as two separate groups, okay? And what was the story? The Omar Mishesh lo shtei kitei bonus. He has two groups of girls, Mishtei Noshim, from two wives. The Omar, and he said, Hidayat biti ha gdoilo. He says, I know I was Mekadesh, my older girl. I was Mekadesh, my big daughter, my old daughter, right? That much I remember. I do have a memory, clear memory, that when I spoke to the Choson, I said, I'm Mekadesh to you, my big girl. She made him a shliach, by the way. If she's above this mitzvah, it's shaykh if she made him a shliach, okay? And he says, I was Mekadesh, my older girl. The Amy Yodea, but now, oi, yeah, memory fog, memory out, blackout. Amy Yodea, I don't know, I don't remember. In Gdoilo Sheba Gdoilos, when you say big or old, it can be very relative. Do you mean Gdoilo Sheba Gdoilos? Do you mean the oldest of the oldest? Or Gdoilo Sheba Ktanois? Maybe you mean the oldest one of the Ktanois? Or Ktana Sheba Gdoilos? Or the youngest of the older ones, which is older than all of those. Let me explain. Old is a very relative word, or big. What do you mean big? Bigger than. When I said my big daughter, my old daughter, did I mean to say this one, my oldest daughter, right? Did I mean the oldest one of the younger group, right? Because she's relatively older than the other youngsters, or maybe it's any one of those, right? Because they still belong to the big group. I was Mekadesh to one of the big girls, the older girls, right? Sometimes in big families, you refer to the big ones as the big ones, the small ones, right? And so too, oh, the only one that is definitely not, I'm on purpose ignoring this. By the way, to say that there's the middle girl is going to be an issue in the Gemara later on. So for now, let's ignore it. Let's just refer to the youngest and oldest as if there are two in each group. The only one that is saved and definitely does not need the get, she's clearly not included, is this one. Besides, for her, she's the only one who is not in the story because she says Rabbi Meir is clearly, she can clearly not be defined as Dola, okay? And therefore, yeah, chutz v'nechtan shevektan zdi Rabbi Meir. That's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi Omer. Rabbi Yossi says, no, kulan mutarois. All of them are okay. None of them needs a get. Chutz v'negdoilo shebegdoilos. Rabbi Yossi is just the other way around. Rabbi Yossi says, no. Rabbi Yossi says all of them are fine. None of them needs a get. Says Rabbi Yossi, none of them need a get. They don't need a get at all. None of them need a get, except for the oldest one. Only the oldest one needs a get. Why? Says Rabbi Yossi, when a person says something and he says Gdola, at least back then when he knew what he was doing, he was clear about what he wanted. Because people don't get themselves into a suffix, says Rabbi Yossi. When people talk and they say Gdola, they make sure you understand clearly what Gdola means. And since he didn't specify otherwise, he meant the Gdola, the biggest one. The Sheikh and Rabbi Meir says no. Sometimes people are being mistakenly, foolishly ambiguous. And really, when a person says Gdola, maybe meant relatively Gdola. We're not sure. So according to Rabbi Meir, they all need the get, because all of them are relatively big, except for her. According to Rabbi Yossi, the other way around. No, none of them needs a get. Only the biggest of the big, the oldest of the old, only she's clearly defined as Gdola, and clearly that's what the father meant when he says my big girl, because people don't get into trouble. I prefer, if you don't mind, if we finish the mission and then your questions, because now comes a very similar case. Kidashtis biti haktano. The exact same case, but the opposite. He was Mekadesh the Ktana. Kidashtis biti haktana. The Eini Yodea in Ktana shebektanois, or Ktana shebegdoilos. I know that a guy came to town and all of them made me shlich to be Mekadesh. I'm conceptually the hand of my daughters to be Mekadesh. And I remember discussing with a guy that came to my door to look for shidduch, and I told him, I'm Mekadesh to you, my young girl. What does young mean? Oh, now I don't know. It's been 2 years later now. I don't know. Eini Yodea, I'm Ktana shebektanois. Did I mean the youngest? Or Ktana shebegdoilos. Maybe I meant the youngest of the big ones. Or Ktana shebegdoilos. Maybe I meant the youngest one, right? The youngest shebegdoilos shebektanos. Maybe I meant the oldest of the younger group, because all of them are young, right? Because she's still relatively younger than all of those, right? So what do? I'm not sure what to do. Which ktana did they mean? The ultimate ktana or a relative ktana, which could also be her, or maybe even her, right? I don't know. Oy, oy, oy. What do you do, Rabbi? Rabbi, what do I do? Do all my girls need a get from a guy? That's a big story. Says Rabbi Meir, yes, they do. Kulan asus, all of them need the get. Since all of them can be defined as a relatively small, relatively young, defines all of them. So maybe ktana can mean this, or this also, maybe even this. All of them are younger than someone, except for her. So the only one who's out of trouble is the biggest one, because she can definitely not be defined as ktana, but all the other ones, whoop, they all are maybe potentially the girl that you really meant and you're not sure about. All of them need to get from the guy, from the same guy who came to your door and gave you money for one of them. We don't know for which one. That's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi says the same exact idea, but following his original logic, applying it over here. Rabbi Yossi says no. When people talk to Choson about Kiddushin and they're serious about it and they receive Kiddushin from a man on behalf of the girls, they don't talk unclearly. Sometimes even the funniest people get actually clear and very, very lucid. And that is when a person said, I was Mekadesh the Ktana, he meant Ktana. He definitely meant the clearest Ktana in the picture, which is Miss Little One. But all the other ones do not need the get, says Rabbi Yossi. It's the same as before, just the other way around. Basically, I'm not sure if I explained enough background. Let's say that these 6 girls are, to play it safe, all 6 girls are above Bas Mitzvah, right? They're all desperate to get a shidduch. They all gave the father the power of attorney, so to speak. They all made him shliach. And they said, Tati, when the knight in the shining armor will come through the door, I am giving you money now, not money. I'm giving you now the shlichus, I'm you to receive money on my behalf. Okay? So now he conceptually can receive Kiddushin on behalf of any of the 6. Which one was it? In the first case, you remember talking about Gdola. But what does Gdola mean? Relative Gdola? Ultimate Gdola? What does it mean? So says Rabbi Meir, you're in trouble, Rabbi, Mr. Father. And Echinami, all of them will have to get a get from the guy, except for the one who's clearly not a Gdola, which is this girl. That's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi says no. Rabbi Yossi says if you spoke about a Gdola, people don't get themselves into trouble in speaking ambiguously when they talk about Shidduchim. And therefore, when you said Gdola, we trust you, you meant the Gdolas, the Gdola of the Gdolos, the biggest, oldest. All the rest do not need a get, and she is the happy wife. And the same thing about Ktana, just the other way around. Questions or comments by the rabbi from California? There's the Heilige Gemara. In the first case of the Mishnah, forget about this. This was a case where all are big or all are small, below or above Bas Mitzvah. But if you remember the first ratio of the Mishnah, that spoke about what? That spoke about a person who has girls above and below Bas Mitzvah, right? And he doesn't remember which daughter is the daughter that's Mekudeshes to Mr. Knight in the shining armor. And what happens then? We know the Ktanos are Mekudeshes, the younger girls, Kiddushin apply to them because the father automatically receives for them. The big ones are not within his authority. They're teenagers. They do what they want. And halachically, he can't receive Kiddushin for them, right? So therefore, when he doesn't remember whether it's the bigger ones or the older ones, clearly it's the younger ones. Now, I on purpose wasn't clear about whether there are a few girls above Bas Mitzvah and a few girls below, or just one on each side. The Gemara assumes from the Lashon of the Mishnah, if you notice Rashi, I see people here saying Rashi, there's a Girsa in Rashi and the Girsa in the Gemara. Are we talking here about Gdoi Lois or Gdoi Lo? Tanois or Ktana? The Gemara assumes that there is a group of big girls and a group of younger girls below Bas Mitzvah. The older girls, they're not within his authority. They didn't make him a shliach. But the younger ones, they are the ones that are in the focus. They're in the radar. And now we don't know which one of the younger ones is Mekudeshes. So all the younger girls, they need to get from the guy who came through the door. Okay? Says the Gemara, Haktanois bichlal. you see that the younger girls are included in the Kiddushin of the father. Now let's retell the story of the whiteboard. Above Bas Mitzvah, below Bas Mitzvah. I was Mekadesh for one girl. I don't know which one. Those for sure not. If you have younger and older, you do what's within your authority, your power, the younger ones. So the older ones are out, but the younger ones, all of them are Mekudashos. Could that be? Can't be all Mekudashos. They're sisters. But they all need the get because they're all Sophic Mekudeshes. I don't know which one of the little ones, Racheli, Chani, or the famous SB, yes, Prince Abela, which one it is. We don't know. All are Ktanos. All of them would need the get from the guy because they're all Besophic, the ones that the father was Mekadesh, because they're under his umbrella. And now, Frag the Gemara, wait a second. Let's remember Machlokas Abba and Rove from many, many months ago of what? Kiddushin lo nimsur labia. Shmas mino, we can hear from here. Kiddushin she'en misur labia, have a Kiddushin. Let me just refresh your memory. One of the famous Machlokas Abba and Rove, which we saw in Daf Nun Aleph, and that is what? What happens when a man is Mekadesh two sisters, right? To be Mekadesh one of two sisters, we don't know which one. According to Rove, the Kiddushin never started. If I'm Mekadesh two foreign women, yes, according to Rove, it's not Kiddushin. According to, again, if I'm Mekadesh two women that are not sisters, not related, I don't know which one it is, okay? The Kiddushin apply to both. I don't know which one to touch. Maybe she's a Pnuya. Give a get to both of them. But when the two sisters that was Mekadesh, and I don't know which one, right, then nothing happened. Why? Because such Kiddushin, the right from the start, now that I forgot later, at the time of Kiddushin, I wasn't clear about women Mekadesh. Then what? Since one of them is my wife, but the other one is my wife's sister, so I cannot touch my own wife. Even the one that is my wife is untouchable for me. Why? Because maybe she is my wife's sister, which I'm not allowed to touch. Because of that, says Rove, because right from the root, from the beginning of Kiddushin, we're talking here about Kiddushin that cannot be consummated. Mimela, such Kiddushin are not Kiddushin at all. Mashenk and Abaye argued. Abaye argued, and Abaye said, no, Kiddushin, Sholem Sulabia is Kiddushin. You can't really actualize it, but it's Kiddushin. Hey, you see over here that the two younger sisters, or three or four younger sisters, they are all under the suffix. They're all under the potential possible matzav of Kiddushin. Why? It's Kiddushin Shalonim Seulabia because they're all sisters. And right from the start, the father wasn't clear about it. Yeah? If so, how does Rava live with this Mishnah? Rava is not good with this Mishnah. The Mishnah is not good with Rava. Because you see there are a few sisters with a suffix. Okay, they're Ktanos. What if they're Ktanos? There are a few sisters. And what about them? They're Miskadeshes, Misofek, and the Kiddushin is Kiddushin Misofek, against what Rava said. Answers the Gemara, no. Rava could explain the Mishnah as follows. In this case, there are only two girls, one above Bas Mitzvah, one below Bas Mitzvah, and that's it. And really, what's the Chiddush? Good question what the Chiddush is, but really, there are no two sisters. If there were two sisters below Bas Mitzvah, and a Chinami, what would be? Nothing. The Kiddushin don't apply. And the big ones are not Mekudeshes, the younger ones are not Mekudeshes, because he accepted it for one of them, we don't know which one, nothing ever started. But our Mishnah that says the younger one is Mekudeshes, there's only one older one and one younger one, and the Kiddushin automatically magnetized to the younger one, which is the one which is under his authority, and is Mekadesh her. Oh, as I told you, the gears of the Mishnah is plural, boigrois, as opposed to bogeres. What's boigrois? Plural. Older ones. There are bigger girls, yeah, that are above Bas Mitzvah. So you're telling me only one? No, the Mishnah says there are two. So must be there are two older, two younger. Rashi says throughout, you assume that the Mishnah is like homogenic, is symmetrical. Whatever happens above Bas Mitzvah happens below. Answers the Gemara, my boy gois, you know what does older girls mean? Boy gois de alma. It doesn't mean that this guy, let's say his last name is Levinstein. This guy Levinstein, who has a few girls, let's say two girls, one bigger, one older, it's not that he has a few girls. We are now talking in general. Boy gois, if you have such cases in a few houses, in a few homes, families in Klal Yisrael, in general,
the boy grois, the bogeres of each family, together they created the demographic of Gedolos, they're out of the question. In other words, in the families of Cohen, Levi, Atias, Levinstein, Rubinstein, and whatever, Talmanovich, in all the families, if such things happen in general, the Bogros, the bigger girls, are out of the question. Yeah, out of the equation, because clearly the father accepts Kiddushin for the younger one, not for the older one. Which begs the question, Shita, that's a question which I wanted to ask all along. Excuse me, what's the chiddush? Of course, if there's one older girl and one younger girl, right? Obviously, when the father accepts kiddushin, he does it on behalf of the one that is his daughter and his yad, and the kiddushin belong to him. The bogros, the older one, what is my avidatayu? What are they doing over here? What do they have to do with the story? Rashi adds a knate to the question very nicely. Rashi says, I'm attacking Rova again. Bishlama, right? Bishlama, if you tell me there are a few older girls and a few younger girls, and you're telling me that the younger girls are all Mekadoshas Misafek, that's a Chiddush. Kiddushin Shalom Surah have a Kiddushin like Abaye. You're over, you don't want to say that. You're telling me that if you have a few girls below Bas Mitzvah, none of them is Mekudeshes, right? So you have to create a story in the Mishnah of one older and one younger. Then what's a Chiddush? To tell me that the older one is not within his Roshut Kadesh, that's old hats. We're holding already, Mr. in Daf Samech Daled. I'm sorry. We know very well that a girl above Naira cannot accept, is not under her father, and girl below is. Why does Mishnah have to tell me that? What's the Chiddush? And regarding the Diuk, you don't agree with the Diuk. So what's the Chiddush, B'chlal? You okay? Yeah. And says the Gemara, as I told you before, the Shavite Shliach. Oh, the older girl, as we saw in the second part of the Mishnah, the older girl made him a Shliach. Says Rashi in Daf Nun Aleph, Rashi says, a girl, the older girl, the one who's 16 or 18 or 20, she said, Daddy, I am now appointing you as a Shliach. Whoever comes through the door, I trust you. I trust your taste. I trust your whatever, your judgment, Hasidish, and whichever man that you find suitable for me, I'm making you Shliach to accept Kiddushin on my behalf. So now they're competing. Why? He's wearing two hats, the father. He's wearing mitzvah, the older girl, he became her shliach. She is independent, but as an independent person, she made him now a shliach for whoever comes through the door that you like. And the younger one, she didn't make him shliach. The younger ones, her kiddushin are owned by him. Oh, so now it's not so simple at all. So now we're not sure when the guy came through the door, knocked on the door, and says, "Do you have a girl that I can marry, please?" You know. So then we don't know which one did the father accept the kiddushin for. Did he accept the Kiddushin for the older one as a shliach, or did he accept it for the younger one as a balabais, as the owner? So now that's an absolute legitimate chiddush. You have to go with the older, with the younger, not with the older. Why? Why is that? Kamash Malan, yeah, you care thinking, yeah. Kamash Malan, loy shavik inish midi de isla no minei, the avid midi de lesla no minei. It all revolves around three things: kesef, money, and guilt. Which means, the father, what about him? The father, when he receives the money from the guy gives the money, a nice golden ring, something more expensive maybe. And who does the guy give it to? The father. Yeah, I know it's the father, but if it's for the ktana, the father is the owner of the money. It's for the gdola that he's supposed to pass it on to the one who's Mashalech, the one who appointed him, to his big boss, who's the old girl. In the case of the old girl, she's the boss. The younger girl, he's the boss. And therefore, a person which receives Kiddushin would not leave behind something that he has hano, that he has benefit from, and leave behind something and go for something that he has no benefit from, which means his own natural yetzer as a person would be to accept money that he's going to gain, he's going to make, and therefore he wants to go for the ktana, not for the gdola, because the gdola, he will not gain the money, he will not end up pocketing the money. Well, how do you know? Milo yaskinan, first wad lan. Milo yaskinan the omale kiddushe lach, right? How do you know? Maybe the older girl told him, Daddy, you're such an amazing father, you're so good, ta 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 ta. Maybe I'm giving my kiddushin to you. you're going to be Toreach, have the hassle of finding me the choson and be my shliach, which, by the way, we saw in Daf Mem Hey, the person is not supposed to make his father a shliach, to make the parents run around, right, as kids tend to do, right? And what do we say? The girl here says, listen, father, you're working hard. You know what? As a prize, as a trophy, my Kiddushin will belong to you. In other words, could be that in our Mishnah, both the younger girl and the older girl, both of them, their Kiddushin will be owned by the father. The younger girl, because that's halacha, he's the owner. The older girl, she was mevater, she gave him her Kiddushin. No. So now what would you say? Why would you prefer to be Mekadosh the younger one and not the older one? Maybe he went for the older one first. Answers the Gemara, no, afilu hachi, and that's the final answer for this part. Lo shavik inish mitzvah derami alei, the avid mitzvah de lo ami alei. A person does not leave behind a mitzvah that is rami alei, that is incumbent upon him, a mishnah that is obligated, a mitzvah is obligated to do. He doesn't throw that away and perform a mitzvah that is not obligatory for him. Let me explain. The older girl, he has no mitzvah. People of older singles should know that. It's not a person's mitzvah to be mekadesh or make sure that his older girl is miskadeshes. We did see in Daf Lamed that there's an Inyan who, make your daughter look nice and buy her clothes and encourage her to get married. But the actual Kiddushin she can do on her own. There's no mitzvah for me to be receiving the Kiddushin of my older girl. She's a big girl. Let her do it herself. She's lazy, she's far away, she's dorming, she's university in Sem. She made me the shliach. Okay, I'll be a nice guy. I'm not mechuyev to accept her kiddushin. The actual receiving kiddushin is not mechuyuv. She's a big girl. Let her deal with herself. Meshenken the ktana, no way. Ktana, who's in charge of the ktana's kiddushin? Father, and only the father. She cannot receive the kiddushin herself. Therefore, the mitzvah of receiving kiddushin applies davka to the kiddushin of the ktana. And here we're back to Ellen and maybe what Rav Simkin also meant. I'd like to hear you now. Now is the time to talk about Kiddush Ktan. The Ritva points out that this is a bit funny because we're saying here it's a mitzvah to receive Kiddushin for the little girl. And we saw in Daf Mem Aleph that it's also, it's forbidden to accept Kiddushin for the Ktana. Yes, why is it forbidden? Because Lamaisa, a young girl below Bas Mitzvah, she may hate him later, right? She doesn't know what she wants from her life. She's below 12 and a half. 12, not 12 and a half. She's below 12. She's halachically, she has no das. And therefore, you're marrying her off. And later, at the age of 16, she'll hate him right away. Yeah, at the age of 13 already. So why are you saying here it's a mitzvah? Says the Ritva, here we're talking about a case where either the girl is a naira. Naira is a very interesting, window in time in which Mutzad Echod, girl, once she's 12, halachically she's mature enough. That 12 years old has enough das that if she got a warning and then she worshipped over the Zohar, they're going to kill her. So at the age of 12, halachically, in halachic psychology, in human development, the age of 12, she is absolutely aware of what she's doing. It's a Cheney, the father can accept her Kiddushin against her will. So now, if that Naira was consulted, and the father told her, do you want to marry that guy? She says, yes, we accept that. When he approaches, he's 8 years old, and she said, yes, I like this daddy. She doesn't know what she's talking about, yeah? The sheikh at the age, or even 10 or 11, maybe. That's a shayla in the Rishonim. Once she's 12, what do you mean you're going to hate him? There are many 30 years old who marry and then they hate the spouse. So what? Let's never get married. Shtiyot. Obviously not. Once you're 12, mitzad echod, the father is in charge. Mitzad you can ask her, and she can say, yeah, I want this guy, not the other one. And you accept it, and that's okay. Another answer, the Ritva says, we're talking about a case which we know the girl will never, we can highly assume the girl will never resist the guy. She will never reject him. She has no reason to be Rashi's Memayin. He doesn't immune of this. In other words, it's a guy which we know she's going to like, say, whatever, it's a big superstar. We know for sure. Very, very likely she's going to like him. And in such a case, you may marry your daughter Ktana because it's very unlikely she will not like him later on. And in such case, it's even a mitzvah. That mitzvah, we assume, is what the father wants to do. And therefore, when there's one big girl, one older girl, one younger girl, we assume it's the younger girl that he's going to deal with because that's his mitzvah olov. Even though the older one is first, but she's not my achrayis anymore. The younger one is my achrayis, is my mitzvah, and therefore I'll do that first. That's the assumption. Question time or continue, whatever you prefer, or commercial. Oh. Now we have to switch, make a clear switch here. Forget about below and above bas mitzvah. We're talking here about a person who has two groups of girls, right? Either all of them are below or all of them are above bas mitzvah. To make it nicer, clear for us, let's say all of them are above naira. Yeah? There's a girl 14, 16, and 18. They are the daughters of Rochel. There's a girl 22, 24, 26. They are the daughters of Yocheved. Okay? There are two groups of girls, the older group and the younger group. What is? Let's summarize the Mishnah. What did we say in the Mishnah? The man remembers that when the guy came through the door, the chosan, he said, "I'm marrying my gedola, my big girl. I'm giving you." Now he's like, "Oh, what did I mean by big? Did I mean the biggest, the oldest? Did I mean the oldest of the younger group? Did I mean any one of the older group? Because they're all called older in relative to the younger. What's the story?" Says the Bimail, tough luck. Really, all of them are under the suffix, meaning what? The guy will have to give gittin to each and every one, except for the youngest one, who can clearly not be defined as old, because he's the youngest. Rabbi Yossi says no. Rabbi Yossi says nishtadoi. Rabbi Yossi says no. Only the oldest is really what you meant when you said old, and she is the happy wife. She is a lucky wife. She'll wear sheitel and go live with him. And all the other ones are out of the question. Why? Why? Rabbi Meir believes that sometimes people use ambiguous lashon and they're not clear. Sometimes people, even with serious matters like Kiddushin, people can get messed up and nachis go down into a sticky situation. Rabbi Yossi says no. Chazal were top psychologists, of course. Rabbi Yossi says no. Rabbi Yossi says people don't get into that sticky situation. So clearly, when maybe now he's confused, but we trust him that at the moment of truth, when there was real Kiddushin given, he was serious. And when he received for Gdola, he meant the Gdola, not any question marks. People don't like question marks when it gets to serious business. And the same thing about Ktana. The exact same machlekes is about Ktana. If the person says Ktana, according to Abimeir, they all need to get, because they're all relatively Ktana. And Rabbi Yossi says, no, all of them are scot-free. Only the Ktana, the tiniest, cutest, smallest, only she is the one who's miskadeshes for the same reason, Rabbi Yossi. And the question is, the tzricha, why did Rabbi Yossi have to repeat the same concept twice, right? It's the same story, just the other way around. It's mirror image. Why did Rabbi Yossi have to basically apply their logic, the machlokes, to two separate cases? Why? Answers the Gemara. Dishmin and Kamaisa, had we only, if the Mishnah would have told us only the first case of the big girl, maybe only when the person speaks about a big girl, he means the relatively big one. You know why? Because that girl has another girl that's younger than her. He likes to call that one the big one. Explains Rashi. People always like to, fathers in Shidduchim, raise your hands, please. We all like to market our children when it comes to Shidduchim, right? Okay, true. You tell them in Shidduchim that your kid messes up the room and never tidies the room? Of course not. You don't write that in the resume. Yeah, you want to make them look, as good as they are. So now, when the father says Gdola, to say to a guy, I'm giving you my old girl, my big girl, it's a mila. To call a girl a big girl, yeah, an old girl, not too old, yeah, a big girl, a mature girl is a mila. So even if she has a little bit of a Gdola, she only has one below her, it still makes sense. The guy would like to say, yeah, I'm giving you my big girl. Well, she's big because it's somebody younger than her, right? So it makes sense that there, any relatively big girl still falls under the definition of big, old, mature. Aval beho, when it comes to a younger girl, maybe then Rabbi Meir would agree to Rabbi Yossi, the ktana lehaktana de kulu karilo. Maybe by Ktana, he only calls Ktana the youngest one. That people don't like to say, I'm giving you my youngest daughter. No, young is not a minor. She doesn't know how to cook and change the diapers. She's the little mujinik. She's the spoiled girl. And therefore, yeah, by Ktana, people don't call a young girl, they don't like to use that term, unless she's really the Ktana. Unless you force to admit the truth. So maybe he agrees to Rabbi Yossi that only the youngest is the one included. Because otherwise you wouldn't have called her that way. Because it's not so endearing, right? Now, what about the other way around? What about head we only know about Ktana? The same logic the other way around. When you say Ktana, says Rabbi Yossi, people don't like to call the daughters Ktana unless she's really, really Ktana. You can't hide it. And then says Rabbi Yossi, Ktana means the youngest. Aval Be'ach, when it comes to Gdoila, people always like to basically emphasize the godless. Yeah, maybe here Rabbi Yossi would agree to Rabbi Meir. When it comes to Gdoila, any girl who's a little bit bigger than anybody else is called Gdoila. Maybe Rabbi Yossi would agree to that. Tzricha. What's a tzricha? It has nothing to do with the way the fathers market the daughters. No. It's a simple through and through, across the board machloikes between what and what. Two types of logic. Do people get into confusing statements? Do people make confusing statements such as my big one, and he's not clear himself which one is the big one that he meant? And that's Rabbi Meir. So many of them are stuck now. Says Rabbi Yossi, no. When people talk about shidduchim, not shidduchim, the moment of Kiddushin, he accepted Kiddushin, he's making an eshes ish. A person doesn't get into ambiguous, fuzzy, nebulous kind of lashon. And when he said big, he meant the biggest. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said it. That's Rabbi Yossi. And that's the same logic through and through. Nothing changed. Now, soon we're going to talk about a holiday which we've just been through, the holiday of Passover. The Gemara is about to summarize Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi and then ask a question. Lememra, you're coming to tell me here, the Rabbi Meir Sovar Machis Inish Nafshel Esfeka. The Rabbi Meir is the one who says a person machis brings himself down. A person kilu gets himself into, in English, gets himself into a sofek. He makes statements that just cause him trouble to trip over his own tongue. Yeah. The Rabbi Yossi says no. People don't make statements that are ambiguous. And when they said big, they meant biggest. Yeah, people like to be clear. And when he spoke about big, he did not mean the maybe big one. He meant the big one with an exclamation mark. That's how people talk and think. Yeah, that is what Rabbi Yossi says. Now, this applies not only for Kiddushin. Did you see what the Gemara just said? The Gemara didn't say that this applies only to serious business as Kiddushin. We're speaking here about Lichor or anything, right? True? Machizinish, in general, when people make statements in business, maybe people make jokes sometimes, but when you're serious, Kiddushin, Nedorim, business, things like that, you usually don't use ambiguous lashon, you use clear lashon, right? Or you mean the clear one, not the maybe one. That is Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Meir says no. Sometimes people use ambiguous lashon, and they themselves may include the maybe interpretation, not the sure interpretation. Here comes the question. I'll show you another Mishnah from Nedorim, other big business, Nedorim, serious business. I'll show you a Mishnah in Nedorim in which we're going to see just the Ipcha. What's Ipcha in English? Just the opposite, just the other way around. Yeah, we're going to see now. Rabbi Yossi believes that sometimes people's lashon includes the ambiguous part, and Rabbi Meir is the one who believes that when people talk, they only mean the clear part. They do not include in the statement the ambiguous part. Just the other way around. It says in Mishnah in Nedorim. Anoider Ada Pesach. Let me explain the background. Yeah, let's say there are two people. One of them became very unfriendly with his friend. Back then, it was very common for people who were at odds with each other. They would make a neder from the other person. I don't want to benefit from you, right? I'm my own person. I'm making a neder. Anything to do with you, I'm not going to have any hano. How do you define hano? Benefit, enjoyment, fun, good stuff. I'm neither from you. Yeah, I'm not going to go through your house. Not going to get your food. Not going to this. You're getting on my nerves. That's it. Now, let's say the person wants to give a time limit. Now, I'm not saying, but it's a good thing to do. Yeah, I'm not saying this is recommendable, but that's the kind of thing used to happen. So now, let's say a person is noider, but he's putting right from the start, he's putting a time limit to the neder. It's now Purim time. You really upset me. You came to my house shikar and crazy and you said inappropriate things. Out of my sight. But you know what? I'm a nice guy. I'm putting a time limit from, let's say, Purim or Hanukkah or whenever, or Thanksgiving, whenever it is, until Pesach. Until Pesach, you are out of sight from me. I'm not the henna from you until Pesach. From Pesach onwards, I'll be back to normal. Okay, I'm giving you like a period of, warning period. Okay, fine. Now there are three options. We all know when I tell you we're going to learn Kiddushin, let's say until Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. What does it mean? Rosh Chodesh Tammuz included. Rosh Chodesh Tammuz not included. How do you call it in Hebrew? Ad bichlal or lo ad bichlal, right? Until Wednesday, including Wednesday and not including Wednesday, right? That is exactly the question over here. And let's see the Mishnah now inside. A noider, a person made a neder from his friend, let's say, ad ha-Pesach. I'm noider until Pesach. What does until Pesach mean? Also, he's not allowed to benefit from his friend. Ad sheyagia, until, full stop. Until Pesach comes, once it's Leila Seder, once Ma'ariv, once it's Shkia of Pesach, Leil Tesvav, boom, at that happy moment, the barriers has been removed, all is good, all is fine. Fine? Because ad means ad veloyad bichlal. Okay. Second case, ad sheyeh Pesach, until it will be Pesach. He's adding an extra word. Until Pesach is here. Asur ad sheyetze. Then it's asur the entire period of Pesach until Motzei Pesach. Let me explain. When you say, I know it sounds strange, but ad sheyeh Pesach does mean until Pesach comes. Ad sheyeh, in English, it's called as long as Pesach is here. Yeheh, what's Yeheh in English? Will be. Until Pesach will be means as long as Pesach will be. Meaning as long as Pesach is here, you're still osir. Don't come to my house. I won't come to yours. Don't give me your matzahs. Don't give me your wine. Don't give me your. I don't want to have any business with you, Beneder, until the end of Pesach, until Pesach is out. Because Yehei Pesach means as long as Pesach is Yeheh, is around, is in existence, we're still far apart. That, by the way, everyone agrees to. No machloikes. Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi all agree. Here comes machloikes. The third case is a machloikes. Ad pnei Pesach. What's ad pnei Pesach? Ad pnei Pesach. Pnei reminds us of the word in Hebrew lifnei. Until lifnei Pesach, right? Until pnei, until there's some kind of before Pesach. What would you say? Until before Pesach means before Pesach. Not so simple. Rabbi Meir oimer osur ad sheyagia. Rabbi Meir says if you say until before Pesach means as long as it is the period of before Pesach, it's osur. Once your wife, lights the candles, once it's shkia, once it says whatever, once Pesach kicks in, it's mutter because it's not before Pesach, right? As long as we're in the period before Pesach, I'm osur. Clear, right? Once Pesach is here, it's Pesach. It's not before Pesach. That is who? That's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi Omer, unbelievable. Look at Rabbi Yossi. And sheyetze. Wow. Rabbi Yossi says until before Pesach means until Pesach is out the whole 7 days, maybe 8 in Chutz La'aretz, the entire time is osur. What? How can you say lifnei means during? Oh, now we're going to hit the nail on the head. Rabbi Yossi believes that when people say lifnei, they also include ambiguous, questionable time. You tell me. We all think Lifnei Pesach means before Leila Seder. Not so simple. I want to ask you a question. At the last 5 minutes of Pesach, I don't know if you're fantasizing about chometz or not. I'm not one of those. I didn't have chometz yet. Yeah. Let's say 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute before Shkia. Don't get into sfeikus. Are you allowed to eat chometz? No. You eat a kazayas chometz? Oh, honey, it's a chorus. Yeah. So it's still Pesach. The last 5 minutes, the last 5 milliseconds of Pesach, the end of the seventh day, is what? Excuse me, which holiday is it? Thanksgiving? No, it's Pesach. Pesach. So when you say Lifnei Pesach, maybe you're meant to say before any given segment of Pesach. That's all 7 days until before the last second. So B'yosi now, so now let's look what's going on over here. According to Rabbi Meir, when we say Lifnei Pesach, we mean to say clearly Lifnei Pesach means before the beginning of Pesach, because that's clearly before Pesach. B'Shein Ken, that's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir is now opting for being clear in your language and only including in your words things that are clear. B'Shein Ken, Rabbi Yossi says no. I know that before Pesach, Beloshan Bnei Yoda means before Tesvav Nisan. But excuse me, it's also true to put a question mark on each and every day of Pesach. Maybe the guy meant before Pesach, before the second day of Pesach, before the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, before the end of the seventh. I don't know. So Rabbi Yossi all of a sudden is the one who believes that the person's loshon may include ambiguous, questionable versions of his words, interpretations of the words. It's just the opposite of what we said in our Mishnah. In our Mishnah, we said Rabbi Meir goes for the unclear, Rabbi Yossi for the clear. Comes to the Nedorim and Pesach, it's just the other way around. Tire answers the Gemara. Very, very easy answer. We pull that card sometimes. Which means the version you had in Nedorim is wrong. You have to switch around the opinions in Nedorim, which means your Mishnah in Nedorim is wrong. The real Mishnah in Nedorim should say the following, as we're going to see soon, that according to Rabbi Meir, the entire Pesach is Osir, because maybe Lifnei Pesach means before the end of Pesach. Less likely, but maybe, and Rabbi Meir likes maybes. And Rabbi Yossi is the one who said that before Pesach, when it's clearly before Pesach, before the beginning of any kind of Pesach, that's included the clear one. That Tanya. And we see now a brisa that supports that. We're not time inventing things because we feel like. We have a brisa to support us. This is the rule. Kol shezmanu kavua. When you have a period of time which has a set amount of days, such as Pesach. Last time I checked, Pesach is always 7 days, and outside Eretz Yisrael, always 8. I never knew of somebody who celebrates Pesach for 5 days or for 10 days. Maybe deformed rabbis, I don't know what they do. Yeah, they don't celebrate anything. Yeah, kozmanu kavua. Anything that has a set amount of time, such as Pesach or Sukkot or Shavuos, the Omar ad pnei, and the person said, I am noider, I'm making an neder until the before stage. The Meir says, you know, it's until before. Says Rabbi Meir, I don't know. Maybe the guy meant clearly before, or maybe the guy meant the questionable before, which is what? During Pesach, before the end of Pesach. To play it safe, I want to include the entire Pesach in his neder. Yosi Amerat Shiagia. Rabbi Yosi, true to his opinion over here in Kiddushin, same thing by Nedorim, Ad Sheyagia. Rabbi Yosi says the person who says a statement, he means to include in his statement only the clear version of it, not the fuzzy version. And therefore, Ad Sheyagia, until Pesach arrives, until we reach Pesach, that is when we say that the neder is included. Ad Kan, good. So Meir and Rabbi Yossi survived the storm up until now. Everything is nice, everything is good. Rabbi Meir believes that a loshon may include also biggest parts, and therefore all the girls may be mikudeshes. We don't know which one, except for the youngest, right? In the first case. And Rabbi Yossi says no. When a person makes a statement, he means to only include in the statement the one that is red alert, bright red extreme, the one that is clearly defined within his words. But anything that's a maybe is not included. So only the oldest girl is what we meant by oldest. Ad Kan, everything is good. That's, yeah, question. If not, to continue. You good? If he says Gdola, then even Rabbi Meir would not say the youngest, obviously, because she can never be defined as Gdola. So even Rabbi Meir is so extreme and says all the Maybears are included, not her, because she can never be defined as Gdola, right? If he says youngest, says Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Meir, who's young? He didn't say youngest. He says Ktana, young. I'm giving him a young girl. She's also young. She's only 30. She's younger than 32. I meant young, any of the young, Shimon young. Yeah, only that one cannot be defined as young by any definition in the world. So she's out of the question in Rabbi Meir. Vashenk in Rabbi Yossi says no. Young means young. Okay, it's the same machlokes twice. We explain why we need both. Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you. Not at that time, but we will start the new mahalach now. You notice that the middle girls of each group, I put them in a shtickle parentheses on purpose. Yeah. Up until now, right? We didn't really speak about the middle girls of each group. Okay. Now Abaye will discuss it. Right. Up until now, we assume, yeah. Let's talk about Rabbi Meir. Anybody that can be called an older girl is included. Well, this girl who's 14, she's older than the 13, so maybe she's included. Yeah, she's defined as the old girl. Maybe, yeah, not a lie. She's defined as old, right? Okay. Now comes Abaye with a revolution. Omar Abaye. Yeah. Machloikes b'shtei kitebonos. This entire machloikes about younger group and older group and who's included is only true when you have two groups of girls that can be defined as younger and older. One of them is from one mother, the other one from the other mother. Good. Aval bekas achas. Let's say the guy only has, I'm hiding. Let's say the guy only has 3 daughters from one wife, regular normative family, functional family. Yeah, one guy with 3 girls. Yeah, one guy married. Yeah, and he has 3 daughters. Okay. And he spoke to a guy about an older girl, a younger girl. Oh, what would be with the middle girl? According to Rabbi Meir, says Abaye, Divrei Hakol, even Rabbi Meir would agree, Dola Mamesh, Ktana Mamesh, Emtsa'is, welcome to the new term. What's Emtsa'it in English? Middle. Emtsa'is Bishma Karilo, which means when you have an older group and younger group, then even the youngest of the oldest group can be defined as old. Why? She's looking at the little ones with her nose up, right? She is still from the older group. And it's the other way around. But when you don't have groups, you have 3 girls, all are, 14, 16, 18, okay? All one daddy, one mommy, from the, Colgate Ed. Yeah, they all look nice and perfect. All 3 girls. When you said the old, even according to Rabbi Meir, you meant the oldest, not the middle one. And when you say young, you meant the youngest. Why? The middle one, when you only have one group of girls, the middle girl is never called the big or the small, because relative to her group, she's not big or small, even though she has a younger sister. That's a Bayis Chiddush. And we're going to discuss it. We're going to give a hard time, not today, tomorrow. Even though she has a younger sister. But because it's not about groups, it's about one against one, internal politics, Abai is Mechadesh. The middle girl is either called the middle girl, or she's called by her name. What's her name? Prince of Bela. Rochel, Prince of Bela, and Leah. Call Prince of Bela. So if you said to that guy who came to you 1 year ago and you knocked on the door, I'm marrying you, I'm giving you my old girl, you mean old? I'm giving you the young, you mean young? The middle one is out of the question. That's a Bayis Chiddush. That's a Bayis Chiddush. Okay? I would leave it at that because that's a good place to stop. Tomorrow we're going to discuss about back and forth. Bezos Hashem get to the next mission and beyond. I think we'll be doing Kiddushin for another. Kiddushin is 82 dapim. Now we're in dap 64. So how many? No. The end of Sivan. There. 21, what? Which means really 42. 42, okay, so a few later. We'll get after Kiddushin, a vote. Let's take a vote. Vote. See you, everybody. Atzlacha to people on Torah Anytime on YouTube. People can vote online, YouTube and Torah Anytime. Atzlacha, bracha.